Good morning. Today we have to see comedy. The nature of comedy. The word comedy or comic is generally taken as a humorous or funny or ridiculous, but in literature, comedy is a play which, with a pleasant, that is entertaining atmosphere and happy ending. In more abstract sense, it is found in the novel. A great deal of comedy is satirical and a great deal of satire is comical. The comic mood and the satire mood are closely related with one another. Yet we are concerned with the stage comedy. See here, we have to deal with the origin of the comedy. The comedy has a crude beginning in the comas, a kind of fertility celebration which involved much crude merriment and rivalry of kind which is shocking. Milton gave the name Comus to the god of revelry and license. The moralists in all periods have regarded comedy with great mistrust. It is just to do so about restoration, but very few of the great comedies produced in Europe since the Renaissance saw any trace of their crude origins. But by the time of great tragedies of Greeks, comedy has established itself as a recognized form of drama. It has become customary in Athens that satire plays was immediately performed after each tragic trilogy. Tragic trilogy which we have seen earlier. Only one play, Cyclops and Euripides, performed after each survives. A satire play was generally a burlesque treatment of some well-known myth. It provides a sharp contrast to the tragedies and offers some relief after tragic sequence. The chorus in the guise of satires, or the goat's ears, which has already become traditional costumes of the dithyramb or goat song. Naturally, the word satire must have come from satire, though it seems so, it is not true. By the time of Aristophanes, that is 448 BC to 380 BC, comedy was not considered inferior in any way to tragedy. They began to be performed as separate plays. Aristophanes' comedy was not only a topical but highly original also. It introduced actors recognizable by realistic masks and lively imitations of their mannerism. The clouds the knights, the frogs, etc. Are well known comedies of Aristophanes. They are modern in tone, they are satirical but good tempered. Aristophanes, they are modern in tone. These comedies were written in the period 292 BC, which were wrote in a different kind of comedy. It is called a new comedy. It may also be called comedy of manners. Though Menander was less genius than Aristophanes, he influenced much on the future development of comedy. In the succeeding century, he was imitated by two famous Latin writers. It was between the period 254 to 184 BC, and Terence, it was in between 190 to 159 BC. These were imitated by scarce of subsequent playwrights. This is the origin of the comedy which we have in the history. It was considered as the komos in the Greek literature. Later on, it spread to Europe literature. Then, it has become customary in Athens in comparison with the tragedy. We have the history of the comedy since 448 BC. Then later on, it came as, or it resulted as one of the important writing in history of English literature. Then after, we have to see nature of the comedy. Aristotle had said that comedy represented persons of a lower class, but not the playwrights. But Plautus and Terence began to suppose an inferior playwrights. Generally, mother-in-law and old men are ridiculed in comedies. But in reality, we respect them. No one would make fun of a blind man. But Shakespeare has done. It seems that our sense of comedy is something quite separate from the rest of our personality. Some physical or the psychological identity is mercilessly ridiculed, which is bad for a sensible person. It proves that laughter at others is often cruel, and since comedy present imaginary victims, the audience vents their cruelty without harming others. Therefore, here is also a kind of catharsis. When debility is laughed at, it is cruel, and when humiliation is laughed, as it is complex. But true comedy should not have any of these yet. In reality, one should admit that there is no wit without a touch of malice. Like the Greek and Latin writers, medieval mystery and miracle plays also influenced modern comedy. It is the mixture of the religious and the vulgar, which could be seen in Gothic cathedrals, where the figures of satyrs and the kings rubbing shoulders are seen. The cycles of mystery play survives in four kinds: Chester, Coventry, York and Wakefield. God, King and Devil were the main characters. Vice was to be minor characters. Vice may be an incarnated down of Shakespeare. This is the nature of the comedy or the comic plays, where initially Aristotle presented person of a lower class as a comic character. Then in some of the plays, imaginary characters were placed as a comic characters, but a person with disabilities is presented as a comic character by William Shakespeare. Then after, in some of the plays, we have reference of the Greek and the Latin plays, where the comic characters were presented before us in many ways. The cycles of mystery plays survives in four kinds, that is Chester, Coventry, York and Wakefield. Such is the nature of the comedy. Then we have to move towards the kind of the comedy. As far as the history of English literature is concerned, William Shakespeare stands as a very important, most trusted, most discussed writer, dramatist, and his comedies are labeled as comedy of romance, comedy of humors, we will see the kinds of comedy in the next lecture. Okay, thank you.